Welcome here to Sankat Mochan Hanuman Temple. This is the third night reading of Navaratri, and the story of Rama. So tonight's reading will begin with Ayodhya in grief. Sumantra watched with a heavy heart as Rama's boat swiftly floated out across the river Ganga. He camped beside the river for 2 more nights, hoping for Rama's return. But when word came to him that the 3 travelers had been seen on the path to Chitrakoot, he gave up hope and set off back to Ayodhya. 2 days later, with empty chariot and weeping horses, he entered the desolate city. The emperor and queen pressed him for news of Rama. They wanted every last detail, hoping against hope for Rama's return. Sumantra delivered Rama's messages, but he only succeeded in confirming what everyone had already feared. Ram, Sita, and Lakshman would not be seen again in Ayodhya for 14 years. Faced with the awful finality of what he had done, the emperor was lost in an ocean of despair, in which his breathing was a whirlpool. His crying was crashing waves, Kaikeyi's words were alligators, and the opposite shore was Sita. And Ram. "Take me to Ram and Sita," begged Kaushalya. "Take me there quickly on your chariot, or I shall instead go to the house of death. Your foolishness has destroyed us all," she accused her husband bitterly. Then, in remorse, she took his trembling hands. "My love, I should not speak to you so. Grief has destroyed my patience. These last 5 nights have seemed like 5 years." But her harsh words penetrated the emperor's dull consciousness like a sharp sword. He fell into an uneasy sleep in which distant memories flooded his mind. Once more he was a young prince, proud and handsome, and he loved to hunt. One night he ventured alone into the jungle to practice the skill of shooting an unseen target, aiming by sound only and waiting in the darkness beside a pond. He heard a gurgling sound which he thought was the sound of an elephant drinking, and released a serpent-like arrow. From the darkness he heard a human cry. In horror he ran forward and discovered a young boy pierced through the heart by his arrow. The sound he had heard was the sound of the boy filling a water pot, which now lay beside him. Blood trickled down the boy's mouth. "Oh, shame!" cried the boy. "Who has done this terrible deed? I have no enemy, and I am the only support of my parents who are blind and invalid. I came here to draw water for them, but now I am mortally wounded and can no longer protect them." The boy begged Prince Dasarat to remove the arrow, which bit into him like fire. The prince pulled out the arrow, but as soon as he did so, the boy stared at him with silent agony and died. Alone in the darkness and sick with remorse, Dasarat filled the pot and took it to the boy's parents, whom he found nearby. He knew he must tell them the awful truth. "By accident I have killed your son. Now you must punish me." The blind old man spoke. "Without our son we cannot survive. Tomorrow we will die on his funeral pyre. Because you did this in ignorance, you will not be punished in hell. But because you have given us such pain, I curse you also to lose your son in old age, and the pain of your loss will kill you." Dasarat woke with a start. It was night and he was alone and cold. In a broken voice he called for Kaushalya. "Touch me, I cannot see you. I am about to die." But Kaushalya heard nothing. "My memory is fading. I cannot see my beloved Ram. Fortunate are those who will see his sweet face as he returns from the forest like the autumn moon after the rains. I heard nothing. My hands are numb. I feel myself slipping away. My darling Ram, where are you? O cruel Kaikeyi." With these words on his lips, the emperor left this world in the dead of night. Ayodhya had no emperor. A land without an emperor is like a dried up river. Rains cease to fall, sons disobey fathers, wives disrespect husbands, young girls walk in fear of violation, doors are locked at night, merchants do not flourish, and holy men are neglected. Without its emperor, Ayodhya was a night without stars. Kaushalya found the dead emperor and cried out, "Kaikeyi, you have your wish. The kingdom is yours. I shall follow my dead husband into the flames." Ministers took away the body of Dasaratha and preserved it in oil until a son could be brought to perform the funeral rites. They decided that Bharat should be made king, and they sent messages to Kaikeyi to fetch him and his younger brothers to Trupna. The messengers rode with lavish gifts for the Kaikeyi king through 4 days and 3 nights. In Kaikeyi, Bharat was uneasy. His mind was filled with disturbing images from his dreams. He saw his father lying in a muddy pool. He saw the earth shake, volcanoes erupt, and the moon fall from the sky. Then he saw his father, garlanded with red flowers, dragged southwards in a chariot pulled by donkeys. When the messengers arrived from Ayodhya, he was not surprised. They revealed nothing, only that he was needed urgently, but he knew. When such things are dreamed, one prepares for death. Burdened with gifts from Kaikeyi, monarch, and accompanied by a small army, he set off in convoy for Ayodhya, reaching there 7 days later, 10 days after the demise of his father, and 15 days after Ram's departure. Arriving at the gates, he saw the city streets empty and unswept, and his apprehension grew. Immediately, Bharat rushed to his father's apartments, but they were empty. He went to find Kaikeyi. "Where is your father? Is he not with you? Or where is father? Is he not with you? Oh son, your father is no more." Hearing the dreaded words, Bharat fell down and began beating the floor with his powerful arms. "Get up. You must be strong. You are now the king." Kaikeyi told Bharat her good news. Ram exiled, the throne given to Bharat, and Dasaratha dead. "I have done all this for you, my dear son. Now the kingdom is yours, just as you always wanted." Bharat slowly took all this in. "You have done this to please me?" he asked incredulously. "What possible wish could I have to take the throne from Ram and see my father dead? Ram is the source of my strength. What can I do without him?" He paced back and forth and then spoke with resolve. "I will bring Ram back from the forest and go into exile in his place." Then his anger rose and he roared like a mountain lion. "O cruel woman, you have shamed our royal house. You have driven away my beloved brother, and you have killed your own husband. You are my enemy disguised as my mother, and I no longer wish to speak with you. You shall either leave this place or kill yourself." A crowd gathered to hear Bharat vent his anger. Kaushalya accused him bitterly. "Now you can take the throne which your mother worked so hard to get for you. I am sure you will be very happy. If you like, you can send me away too. I will go join Ram." Cut to the core to hear these words, Bharat swore his innocence. He spoke not just to her, but to all of Ayodhya with words that seared into the hearts of all present. "I knew nothing of my mother's plans, nor did I ever desire the throne. Whoever wished Ram to be banished is cursed 100 times, he repeated over and over again. Let them be perpetually barred from heaven. Let them forget all the sacred scriptures. Let them suffer constant illness. Let them go mad and wander as beggars." Becoming more and more distraught, at last he fell headlong on the floor. Kaushalya, in tears, hurried forward to comfort the stricken youth. Taking his head on her lap, she soothed him with gentle words. "My child, stop now. You are innocent of any fault. Be comforted." The next day, Vashistha urged Bharat to perform his duty as the eldest available son of Dasaratha. The funeral must be performed. A pyre was built at the royal cremation ground beside the river Sarayu, and Bharat walked in the procession with Dasarat's body, which was decked with jewels and flowers. He lit the fire and watched as his father's remains were reduced to ashes. Then, as was the custom, he stayed with his family in seclusion for 12 days of mourning. On the 13th day, he returned to the cremation ground to collect his father's whitened bones. Crying inconsolably, he and Satrugna tossed the bones and ashes into the river. Life and death, joy and sorrow, gain and loss, intoned Vashishta. These dualities cannot be avoided. Learn to accept what you cannot change and give up sorrow. The next chapter is In Search of Ram. Vashishta wanted normal life restored to the troubled kingdom, so he urged Bharat to accept the throne. You are now the heir as ordained by your father. Take what is rightfully yours. But Bharat was not to be tempted. The throne and I myself belong to Ram. I will bring him back to Ayodhya and put him on the throne, while I take his place in the forest. Accordingly, Bharat ordered a great expedition to go in search of Ram. It was to be made up of a vast army of elephants, chariots, and cavalry. To prepare the way, teams of engineers worked day and night to transform the path to the Ganga into a broad highway lined with trees, with magnificent pavilions along the way. All this activity inspired the people of Ayodhya. With Bharat as their commander, they felt renewed hope, and the leading citizens joined the expedition in festive mood. Early one morning, when all was ready, Bharat, the hero of the Ikshvaku race, set off, followed by the vast host of Ikshvaku. Archers borne in chariots, richly decorated elephants, mounted cavalry, and in their midst the three queens of Ayodhya riding in chariots of royal splendor. All minds were fixed on the joyful prospect of finding Ram. Soon they reached the Ganga, where the huge company halted for the night. Guha, the tribal chief, loyal to Ram, saw the army entering his territory and was uneasy, wondering at Bharat's motive in pursuing Ram with an army. Bearing gifts of honey and mango pulp, he went down to meet him. How could I have any evil intentions toward my elder brother, who is just like a father to me? Bharat assured him. We want Ram to come back and be king. Bharat appeared confident of achieving this, but secretly he wondered whether he could. Reassured of Bharat's good intentions, Guha offered to help them across the Ganga and guide them to their next stop, the hermitage of Bharadvaha. That night, Guha showed Bharat and his mothers the place where Ram and Sita had spent the night, guarded by Lakshman. See here the blades of grass crushed as Rama slept, said Bharat, and here the strands of gold thread from Sita's cloth, which have stuck to the hard ground where she lay. A devoted wife will undergo any hardship in the company of her lord. For myself, I vow to sleep on the bare ground and live on fruits and roots in the forest for the remainder of Ram's exile, so that his vow will be fulfilled. Bharat could not hide his emotions and fell to the ground in tears. He was consoled by Kaushalya, who hugged him close to her breast. Be strong, Bharat. You are now my only support. The Ikshvaku hosts crossed the river Ganga on 500 boats supplied by Guha. As far as the eye could see, the river teemed with boats and rafts of all sizes, loaded with men, women, and horses, while elephants swam like glistening mountains through the throng. Following the path taken by Ram, they soon reached the hermitage of Bharadvaha. Bharat halted the army and went forward alone to meet the holy sage. Again, his motives were questioned. I know you to be Rama's brother, spoke Bharadvaha, who must now be ruling in his place. I trust you come in peace. I beg you not to think of me as a threat, protested Bharat. My only motive is to bring Ram back to Ayodhya. The sage was pleased to hear this and happily extended his hospitality to Bharat and all his company. You are a simple hermit, said Bharat, and I have a huge army waiting at some distance so as not to overrun your ashram. You could not possibly cater for all of us. I will entertain all of you no matter how many you are, replied Bharadvaha. Bring your army here and you will see the power of a simple hermit. So ordered the sage. Barat called for the army while Bharadvaja invoked divine spirits to help him look after them. He put forth his mystic power until powerful beings from all over the universe were invisibly assembled at that spot. Then he began to work his enchantment. A cool breeze wafted through the trees and showers of flowers rained down from the heavens. Maidens appeared dancing to the sound of celestial music. As astonished soldiers crowded into the grove, all their cares fell away. Smooth green lawns, interspersed with perfumed fruit trees, appeared everywhere with gardens and fountains, and lovely pavilions decked with flowers and soft cushions. All imaginable sounds of delicious foods and drinks were served in unlimited quantities by beautiful women. As the men began to feast, they found that no matter how much they ate, they never felt full. Lovely maidens tended to their needs, taking them down to the riverside, where they massaged them with scented oils and bathed them with fragrant balms. Animal careers tended to the horses and elephants, grooming and feeding them until they glowed with health and satisfaction, so that their keepers could no longer recognize them. The trees took on their human form to dance and serve the guests. Through the night, feasting and revelry continued until all fell into a deep and dreamless sleep. They awoke refreshed, the fatigue and discomfort of their journey gone, to find themselves back in the forest, outside Bharadvaja's ashram, as if nothing had happened. Bharat and his family took grateful leave of Bharadvaja, but before they left, the sage wanted to greet Bharat's mothers. Bharat respectfully introduced Kausalya and Sumitra, but when he came to Kaikeyi, his demeanor changed. This is proud and cruel Kaikeyi. She's the cause of all our suffering. His voice choked with tears of anger as he spoke. Do not hate Kaikeyi, admonished the sage, for Ram's banishment serves a deep purpose and will yet bring happiness to all. With Bharadvaja's advice ringing in his ears, Bharat set off with his army on the final march to Chitrakoot. Soldiers, chariots, horses, and elephants moved through the dense forest like a monsoon cloud, scattering the deer and bears and driving squawking birds into the treetops. They found Chitrakoot Hill abundant with spotted deer and forest flowers. A scout called out, "Ahead I see smoke rising from the trees. This surely is Ram's camp." Word reached Bharat, who ordered the troops to halt while he went forward with Sumantra, the king's trusted advisor, his eyes fixed nervously on the thin blue column of smoke ahead. This next chapter is called Accepting the Inevitable. Arm in arm with Sita, Ram walked in the groves of Chitrakoot. He was happy to be here with only Sita and Lakshmana for company, and didn't in the least miss his friends and family or the burdens of state back home. See how lovely this mountain is? It is home to tigers and bears who will not harm us, to deer and flocks of birds. Brightly colored flowers grow among the rocks of many hues. Mangoes, papayas, pomegranates, and other fruits hang in abundance among the flowering trees. Nearby flows the Mandakini, her banks overhung with shady views, her waters full of swans, cranes, and lotus flowers. I will happily spend my 14 years of exile here with you, my sweetheart. Just then, Ram became aware that something was disturbing the animals. He heard the distant trumpeting of elephants and saw a dust cloud drifting up from the valley below. "Lakshman," he called, what is this disturbance?" Lakshman scaled the tree and gazed to the north. "I see an army with elephants, horses, and chariots," he shouted down. "Put out the fire and have your bow at the ready." "Can you see whose army it is?" inquired Ram. Scanning the massed ranks of men and equipment, Lakshman made out a banner unfurled in the breeze. "I see the white trunk and silver leaves of the emblem of Ayodhya. It must be Bharat," he concluded, "come to kill us both and assert his sovereignty." "We will fight him," he declared. "He lies at the root of all your suffering and he deserves to be killed. And I shall also kill Kaikeyi. Then you can rule the world undisturbed." As he spoke, Lakshman's voice filled with fury. Ram did not at all approve of Lakshman's aggressive words and replied with equal vehemence. Consider what you are saying, Lakshman. I have given my word of honor to renounce the kingdom in favor of Bharat, and now you want me to kill him and sit on a throne stained with his blood? I feel sure that Bharat has come with love in his heart, anxious to see me. But if you wish, I will command him to hand over the kingdom to you. I am sure he will do it immediately. Corrected by his elder brother, Lakshman felt ashamed. Perhaps it may be father who has come to see you, he conceded. You are right, Lakshman. He understands our trials in the forest, and he has come to take us home. But you can see the royal insignia of his white umbrella. But can you see the royal insignia of his white umbrella? Lakshman could not, and despondently climbed down to the ground. Meanwhile, Bharat climbed steadily with his companions up through the trees, his eyes fixed above him on the column of smoke. Some distance behind, a slower pace, followed Vashista and the three queens. Bharat came to a halt. Before him the hillside leveled off, and he saw in a clearing 3 small huts built from leafy branches. Beside them leaned shining bows and quivers, with swords and shields emblazoned with flowers of gold. In front of the huts was an altar upon which burned a sacred fire. In the midst of this scene, Bharat saw his brother Ram sitting with his hair tied in a great tangled knot and wearing a beard, his body smeared with dirt and dressed in deerskin and strips of bark. Ram, with the shoulders of a lion, looked to Bharat like Vishnu, protector of the earth. On either side of him sat Lakshman and Sita. Choking with emotion, Bharat ran forward, crying out, "O Ram, my brother, my noble brother, what has become of you?" Ram took his younger brother in his strong arms and comforted him. "My poor boy, you have come here without your father. I hope the emperor is in good health and has not left this world. I hope you are listening to your counselors and governing the kingdom wisely. But tell me, my dear brother, why have you left Ayodhya and come here dressed like an ascetic?" "O Ram, do you know? Our father has indeed left this world, with a broken heart and gone to heaven. I have come to beg you to return and brighten the empire as the moon brightens the autumn sky. All of us, ministers, gurus, the entire people of Kosala, beg you to come back." When Ram heard of his father's death, he sank to the ground. "With father gone, what remains for me in Ayodhya? My duty now is to obey his order and live in the forest, and yours is to obey his order and rule the kingdom. Now let me pay homage to my departed father." Ram led Lakshman and Sita down to the riverbank to offer water and fruits in honor of his father's spirit. Returning to the huts, he clasped Bharat, Lakshman, and Satrughna, and together they poured out their grief. Far below, the waiting troops heard their cries like the roaring of lions, and he knew the brothers were united once more. Forest animals fled and birds flew confused into the sky. The soldiers converged from all sides, unable to bear the separation from Ram. Their faces bathed in tears, they burst into the clearing and crowded around Ram. Some fell at his feet, some embraced him, while others simply gazed at his face. Soon Vashista arrived with the queens. Ram touched his feet with respect. Many tears and hugs were exchanged, and the company sat and talked as darkness fell. In the morning, all settled down in a circle, full of curiosity to hear what would be said, with Ram and Bharat in the center. Bharat began. "Kaikeyi has now got what she wanted, though it will send her to hell. The kingdom has been given to me. I, however, cannot rule it, and hereby hand it back to you." Ram spoke in reply, his voice clear and calm. "As the sun rises and sets, it steals away the lives of all who live. Yet we greet each new day without thinking that with it comes our death. Indeed, death is our constant companion in this world. Therefore I say, don't waste your tears on others. Grieve for yourself, for you will die soon. We are all like pieces of driftwood floating on the ocean. Sometimes we come together, sometimes we are far apart. Our families, wealth, and fortune are thus made and broken by the force of time. None of us can escape from the path already taken by our parents and grandparents. So why do we stand at the roadside to mourn their passing? Therefore, my brother, do not grieve for your father, who lived a long and righteous life, and has now entered the celestial world. Give up your weeping. Go home to the glorious city of Ayodhya, and I shall stay here, and together we shall do our father's bidding. Ram fell silent. But your duty is not here, it is in Ayodhya, countered Bharat. Let me go to the forest for 14 years in your place. You cannot stand in my place. You will be a ruler of people. I will be a ruler of wildlife. Ram was not to be swayed from his vow. But after 14 years, I promise I shall return and rule the world. As the momentous debate went on, hosts of rishis, unseen by ordinary people, gathered in the air to witness it. They wanted Ram to put an end to Ravana, so they spoke to Bharat with one voice. Noble prince, they advised, accept Ram's advice. He must fulfill his father's obligation. With these words, they disappeared, and Bharat, realizing that he was powerless to bring Ram back, relented. Very well, Ram. I will return to Ayodhya without you, but still you will be our king. He offered Ram a pair of wooden sandals. Place your feet on these sandals, and I will install them on the throne in your absence. Ram placed his feet on the sandals. Bharat triumphantly lifted them on to his head, announcing, These sandals will represent you, our king, whom I will always serve. If, however, you do not return after 14 years, I will die by entering fire. So be it, concluded Ram. He embraced Bharat with tearful eyes. Forgive your mother and take care of her. He turned to his mothers, who were choked with tears, and said goodbye. With a long look at their beloved Ram, unshaken in his duty like the Himalayan mountains, the crowd backed away in awe. He turned and entered his cottage as the crowd melted into the trees. Inside the cottage with Sita and Lakshman, he sat down and wept. Bharat had done his best. Now he took Ram's word to heart. Accepting what could not be changed, he returned to Ayodhya with Ram's sandals and shed no more tears. On reaching Ayodhya, he found it darkened like a cloudy sky, its streets empty and silent. His father's chambers, where so many tragic events had occurred in the last 3 months, seemed like an empty cave holding the memory of a great lion who had once lived there. After bringing his mothers safely back to their quarters, he made an announcement. I shall not live here without Rama. I will stay at the lonely retreat of Nandigram, 14 miles from here. Leaving his mothers in the care of Vashistha and taking with him Shatrugna and the royal army, he left for Nandigram. There he installed Ram's sandals on the throne and placed over them the royal umbrella. When affairs of state were brought to him, he first submitted them before Ram in the guise of his shoes. In this way, dressed as a forest ascetic with his hair unkempt and eating only fruits and roots, Bharat governed the kingdom and waited for Ram's return. After Bharat's visit, Ram was no longer happy in Chitrakoot. It held painful memories, and the disruption caused by Bharat's army had lured man-eating demons to the area, who started disturbing the ascetics who lived there. It was rumored that they were led by Kara, the cruel brother of Ravana. The leader of the forest sages came to warn Ram of the danger. Then he and his followers left in search of safer parts. Although they left Ram, the sages never forgot his beauty and gravity, and felt his presence always with them in their hearts. So Ram led his companions deeper into the wild regions of Dandaka forest. Their first stop was the ashram of Atri. The sage asked Ram to protect the forest community from the Rakshasas, who lived on human blood. He explained to the fearless Ram and Lakshman where they were to be found. Atri's wife was named Anasuya, one without envy. For in her heart there was no anger. Frail and white-haired, after a long life of simplicity and self-denial, she gathered Sita in her arms. Fortunate are you, she said, because your eyes are always fixed upon your husband. A woman has no greater friend than her husband. Be virtuous and devote yourself to him, and you will be rewarded in heaven. She blessed Sita with enchanted ornaments and smeared on her skin celestial balm, so that her radiance would never fade amid the hardships of the jungle. Then she wished to hear from Sita the story of her marriage and listen with rapt attention, as Sita recounted how Ram had won her hand. While they sat together, the sun sank over the horizon. Listen to the cooing of the birds as they settle in their nests, she said, and see the trees fading into twilight. Now the moon rises among the stars, and demons of the night creep from their lairs. I wish to hear more of your sweet words, but it is time for you to join your glorious husband. Then Sita adorned herself with Anasuya's gifts and bowed before her. Sita came before Ram, shining like the moon. They spent the night in peace and departed at dawn, following the path pointed out to them by their host Atri. Ram, the scourge of his enemies with Sita and Lakshman, disappeared into the deep forest as the sun vanished into a bank of clouds. Okay, so that concludes night 3 of the Navaratri readings. We hope you'll join us tomorrow night for night 4. Thank you.